Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Mursaleen wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in amma ba'd. So first of all, I would like to acknowledge Man lam yashkur nas lam yashkurillah. So this presentation is kind of a merge of some basic principles that I originally sort of put together and which was further very eloquently elaborated upon by our Muhammad Faisal, which I further kind of put my own little input in this some final touches for our today's presentation. So we have here building successful Sharia compliant organizations. So if we look at this, we've basically got four components: building successful Sharia compliant and organizations. So let's start with building. Building, first of all, we need to know what we're building. Okay? What we're building, why we're building it, and how we're building it. Okay? Secondly, we have successful. But what is success? That's a word. It needs a definition. So that needs to be defined. What is success? What's the scope of success are we talking about? In this world, in business, a total, holistic, in this world, in the next world also. So we need to identify what's the scope, what do we define success, and what scope of success are we looking at? And then we have Sharia compliant. What does that mean? So we're going to have to identify what is Sharia compliance, and then Sharia compliant organization. So the Sharia compliancy has to be identified, it has to be implemented, it has to be overseen to see that there's a continuum. And then organization. Organization is an English word. In our terminology, we say jama'ah, a group. So what is a group? What is an organization? What is a jama'ah? So we talked about this building, what, why, how. Now, these questions, hopefully we're going to answer these in the course of the presentation. And just keep in mind, we've got a building, we've got, can we get this to work? It's very important that this works. It's not working. Successful, and as we mentioned, definition, scope, Sharia compliant. What's the definition of Sharia compliancy? What is implementation? We're going to have to look at implementation, and then continuation, because they're going to have to be continuous. So hopefully this presentation is going to answer these questions, and what is an organization? Okay, so here, this is, I have to give credit to Muhammad Faisal, very novel thing that he's done here. So if we look at I have a thing which I call the material paradigm and the ubudiyya paradigm. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But basically, we have a material perspective of life, and we have an ubudiyya perspective of life, meaning we have a different paradigm, which we're going to explain more in detail. So the material paradigm, you've got, which is what most of the world follows today. So you have these businesses. Now, it seems that Muhammad Faisal seems to be quite a protagonist of has a personal vendetta against pharmaceutical companies, and I share that vendetta, and no doubt they are a nasty group. But there's more nasty groups than them, but that's pretty much kind of the benchmark. We've got the military-industrial complex, but at least they're honest. They say we're here to kill people, and destroy. And these people do pretty much the same thing, but in a much more subtle way. So they have these claims, they say Pfizer, working together for a healthier world. Doesn't that sound good? Bayer, science for a better life. For who? Okay. Novartis, reimagining medicine together. I mean, these are all actual claims, but you have to understand the reality. Working together for a healthier world, yani for the shareholders. Okay? Bayer, science for a better life. For who? Stakeholders, shareholders. And imagining medicine together. How are we going to pull the wool over people's eyes. So basically, with all of these claims, why is echo? So let's look at Pfizer working together for a healthier world. Oh, by the way, they admit bribery in 8 countries. Uh, and science for a better life. Okay, that's what Bayer says, right? And what about Bayer? Okay, a Bayer corruption case. Well, they've got all these, they're all wanted in criminal. Some of these, in fact, I think it's Pfizer. They're wanted for war crimes in the ICC. Actually, imagine this. Science for a better life. Reimagining medicine together. Ancha. Novartis AG and subsidiaries are to pay 340 million in to resolve foreign corruption practice. So this is business as usual. Glaxo, Smith Kline, 2012. Okay, what did they have? They had they're fined 3 billion after bribing doctors to increase drug sales. 214. Then they come up with what? GlaxoSmithKline fined 490 by China for bribery. So this is the conventional. So do we like this? One time I asked in recent gathering, I said, this is the kind of, and I mentioned this is the kind of world that we live in. How many of you like to live in that kind of world? Raise your hands, please. You like this world? Nobody likes it. Would you like to live in a different world? How many people? Raise your hands. Everybody, right? Online also, raise your hands. So obviously, we're going to have to change. There's going to have to be huge systemic change because this is where the world is. This is where, the business world is and where it's going. And it's been doing this for the past few centuries. You know, Goldman Sachs asks in biotech research report, is curing patients a sustainable business model? Just think about it. That you make money when you sell medicine, which means you need sick people. If people get cured, you don't have clients anymore. It's bad for business. We had a case right here in Pakistan. We have, our Indus Hospital, which is a phenomenal, institution, totally free for everyone, from the beginning to the end, from entrance to medicine. So they wanted to have a program where they wanted to bring about awareness about diabetes. Because people here they don't realize that you've changed your lifestyle. You can definitely control 100%. You can control type 2 diabetes. It needs some awareness. That's all. So they wanted a sponsor that would sponsor this program, and so they went to the company that was providing these medications and treatments. And they said, "This is a great opportunity. It's a good PR for you. You can actually do a nice thing and help out in this initiative." And the CEO, by the way, was a Muslim. I won't mention who that was, but he says, well, I think that's a very good idea and it's very noble, but I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to help you with that. Why not? Well, because, I mean, to be honest, we're business and our business is to sell medication. And if we, get people to not have diabetes, we can't sell medicine. So, I have a responsibility to my shareholders. So this is what happens. So we have a whole mindset here. We have a whole vision and mission and mindset and particular values and ethics and morals that are bringing about this kind of behavior. So it means we have to have a systemic, a fundamental transformation taking place. Otherwise, this is the status quo. And it just gets worse day by day. And we can go on, we can have a whole seminar on that, but that's not our issue here. Our issue is what is that transformational process that we need to go through to bring about that change. We can all complain, we can all criticize, but we need a system. We need a system to bring about this transformational change, and hopefully today we shed some light on what that process looks like. Big Pharma is America's new mafia. Yeah. Right. Okay. So why are these companies behaving in this manner? As I said, because of their whole perspective of life, their whole purpose. What are they here for? As an individual, what do their businesses represent? What are the businesses they're here? Why do people even engage in these activities? So that ushers in three questions. That it begs three questions to be asked. So number one, what is the purpose of my life? Why am I here? Like somebody said back in the 1950s, he said, when you're dead, you're done. So let the good times roll. When you're dead, you're done. So enjoy yourself, as much as you possibly can. Be the best version of yourself. Live life to the max. Have you heard that one? Live life to the max. Follow your passions and your desires. Follow your heart. My God, that's really dangerous. In other words, follow your nafs. Whatever your nafs tells you, who's in direct, sync with shaitan and with Satan. And so where's that going to end up? Disaster here, disaster in the next life. So what is the purpose of life? Well, they don't have much of a clue. And as a result of that, since that's their purpose of life, that's the kind of business model we see. What is the purpose of my business? Well, since the purpose of my life is enjoy and, things, material, passions, physical enjoyment or mental enjoyment, whatever. So the purpose of my business is to provide me the means to do that, caring less for anybody else. So my purpose of my business is to facilitate my life of desires and passion. And so why do I go to work every day? To make sure that I get that. That's all. Nothing more than that. Is that what a Muslim, is that how we perceive? Is that our purpose of life? Is that the purpose of our business? Is that why we go to work every day? Unfortunately, for most of us, the answer is very unfortunately, yes. Even though we are supposed to have an aqidah that tells us otherwise. Again, Muhammad Faisal's input here. This is very interesting. Airlines flight to nowhere sells out in 10 minutes. And this is basically where everyone's going here. So this is interesting. Why did it sell out so fast? Because everybody's interested in going nowhere. Just go for the sake of it. Just move around, SubhanAllah. So that's where all of that business model is taking people. But unfortunately, it's not going nowhere. It is actually going somewhere. It's called the fire of Jahannam. There's a big place for all of that, and it's called Jahannam. It's the firewood. It's the fuel of a place that will continue forever. So this is very critical that we get this right. So our Ubudiyya business model is based on two things, which also answer these three questions. The first question, what's my purpose of life? Now, if you don't have revelation and you don't have connection to revelation, you're never going to figure this out. We can go on and talk about this, my own personal experience before Islam. I'm telling you, my own personal experience and those whom I have spoken to for the past 70 years. Unless we have connection to revelation, we're never gonna know our purpose of existence. And therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself has told us our purpose of existence, which is, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونِ. I've not created the jinn and the men except to live a life of continuous worship, servitude, ya'budun. Ya'budun, this is a verb which stems from the root, which is basically talking about slavery. Being a slave. People say be a servant. Servant, he serves for 8 hours and he goes and lives his personal life. No. We are slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning we are Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's servants, slaves. Our existence is from him. Everything that we have is from him. We are resources, our talents, our intelligence, everything that we have, it belongs to Allah. He's given us. And to utilize that, we need to get His permission. We need to get His okay. So living a life of servitude, meaning living a life of awareness of our Creator, being focused and attentive to His orders, which there's always an order pointing at us every moment of our life. There's always an injunction. There's always an order. Whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm engaged in, there is an order of Allah, directly or indirectly. I'm never out of the scope of being Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's slave. While I'm awake, while I'm asleep, at the workplace, at home, in the masjid, in the bazaar, wherever I happen to be, every moment of my life, I'm supposed to act like a slave, which means I'm looking always attentive and focused on the order of my Creator, what He wants me to do, and trying to engage in that to the best of my ability. So this answers the first question. What's my purpose of life? That's my purpose of life. If we get that right, then let's go to the next second basis. Or before we do that, let's clarify a few words that all Muslims know, but they need to ensure that they understand exactly the implications of these words. Number one, Islam. What does Islam mean? Well, the people who are from the Arabic language, Arabic-speaking people, they understand. It's very clear. But if we're not from the Arabic-speaking people, then maybe we're not clear on this. Some say, well, it means salama. It means peace. Peace comes from this word, the root of this word, but it's not peace per se. You won't get peace without Islam, that's for sure. But it's not peace, it is submission. Islam, aslama yuslimu, Islama, to submit, to surrender. It's an action. It's a mindset and a heart set that begs and demands action. You don't say, well, I'm theorizing on submission. You don't theorize. You don't philosophize. You do it. Right? You do it. You surrender. Allah says, do it, do it. Don't do it, don't do it. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, do it, do it. Don't do it, do it. So submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so the next thing is a Muslim. If we get Muslim. So what is a Muslim? Muslim is the active participle of Islam, which means he's the one who submits to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Muslim is the one who actively submits. It's not like you have a card or you have a pedigree or you come from a lineage or you live in some country, or that has really nothing intrinsically to do with it. You're a Muslim when you actively, consciously, intentionally submit to Allah. And that submission, it has a minimum and it has a maximum. Minimum is to say this kalima and believe it. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. I bear witness that there's one Allah. There's a Nabi Muhammad is his slave, by the way, and his messenger. And I believe that, and whatever he's come with, I believe that that's right, and I should be doing it. Do I do it? There's levels of that. So the minimum is to accept this kalima and believe in all that Islam is, which is a whole total system of life, as we're going to see. And the highest level is Muhammadur Rasulullah. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. Nabi ﷺ is the benchmark in every aspect of our lives, spiritually, physically, economically, politically, militarily, etc., etc., etc. Any role in life, any activity in life, the benchmark is the Prophet ﷺ as a messenger, as a demonstrator, as a teacher. So Islam, Muslim, deen. What is deen? It's not philosophy, it's not religion, because religion, it really doesn't have a definitive definition. Deen is actually the total system of submission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which has a comprehensive scope of all activities and all roles of life, including, of course, business, including our economic activities, which is, we're going to see a little bit more elucidation on that. Okay. So basically, we have been created for ubudiyah. We have been created to live a life of servitude, a life of Islam. Out of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's obedience, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is obedient out of His love and reverence. Allah has given us existence. He's given us everything that we have. And so therefore, not only we fear Him if we don't obey Him, but we love Him because He's given us existence. He's given us everything that we have without even asking again and again, and a lifelong of gratitude will be a drop in the bucket as compared to the amount of blessings that Allah has given any single individual on the planet. Even the non-believers. They have existence. They get free air. They get free sunshine. Even though they totally deny the existence of the Creator and totally juxtapose His system. So, our object of existence, our purpose of being here is to live a life of ubudiyah, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's obedience and servitude out of His love and reverence. And reverence, of course, it also has the element of fear if we don't follow Him. But we would love to follow Him because recognizing all of His great favors upon us. So, from this ayat, we can understand that we've been created for ubudiyah alone. Number two, therefore, all human activities must come under the scope of ubudiyah. We've only been created for ubudiyah, so everything that we do needs to come under that heading. If it's not ubudiyah, we're not supposed to be engaged in it, right? Okay. If Allah has permitted an activity, it must be within the scope of ubudiyah. If Allah says you can do this, and He says you can't do anything that's not ubudiyah, so it must be ubudiyah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has permitted business, so it can and it should be ubudiyah. However, conditionally, every business is going to be ubudiyah. Like Pfizer and Bayer and all these, is that ubudiyah what they're doing? Bribery and and the coercion, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously not. So there's conditions. What are those conditions? Intention, number one, actions are going to be considered according to their intentions. Acceptability, reward or punishment, all depends upon intention. But having an intention doesn't mean that we have a good action. We have to have a good intention, and then we have to have an action which is Sharia compliant, which means it has to follow, the orders of the Quran and Sunnah. Thirdly, it should be according to the way. It should be enacted. It should be performed in accordance to the way of the Prophet ﷺ. And sometimes this will infer something of a higher standard than the minimum requirement of Sharia. For example, 1 kilogram of goods is 1,000 grams. 1,000 grams is the requirement of Sharia. The Prophet ﷺ says, "Zid wa arja." Give him the amount due and give some extra. So a higher level also this infers. And also, these actions should be embellished with good character. So how do we speak? How do we even feel towards our customers, towards our subordinates, towards our subordinates? With what characteristics are we dealing with one another? And what characteristics do I have within myself, intrinsically? So all of these, if these conditions are met, then that act of business, whether it is buying, whether it is selling, whether it is a marketing campaign, whether it's running your supply chain, whether it is dealing with your subordinates or your subordinates, whatever activities you're engaged in, all of these activities can be acts of worship, acts of ubudiyya, means by which we can get close to Allah. Okay. Now, the second basis will answer the second question. The second question is, what's the purpose of my business? Khairun nas and farun nas. The best of mankind are those who are the best to mankind. How many people open up their business that, not, claims, empty claims, but how many businesses actually open for the actual intention of benefiting mankind? Very few. But this is the Islamic perspective. This is the Ubudiyya perspective. The best of mankind are those who are the most beneficial to mankind. So what's the purpose of my business? Basically, to benefit mankind. We included. Because I'm giving a product or a service that benefits them. I'm also making a profit upon that. I get a benefit. They get a benefit. It's a win-win. And I would add a third win situation. They win, we win, and we win in the court of Allah. Okay, now, the concept derived from this, relating to business, the best of mankind are those who are the best of mankind. By the way, did you notice mankind are not Muslim? Right? He said the best Muslim is the one who's the best of the Muslims. No, the best of mankind are those who benefit mankind. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed in the design of our worldly existence interdependence to test us. We have to live together, we have to transact together, we have to deal with one another. And in that relationship, there is a test. Test in our muamalat, the outward form of our transactions. How are we dealing with one another? Is it halal, haram? Is it according to the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or not? Number two, the character that we display in our interactions with one another. The inward character of interactions and transactions also has an outward display as well. The character that we have within ourselves, which has to do with intention. Am I really intending to benefit someone? And the way in which I deal with people, is that an acceptable way? Is it with character, good character? So the best in business will be those who provide beneficial products and services. And every interaction is a test and a step towards Jannah or Jahannam. So if we understand that, our activities, whether it's sales, whether it's buying, whether it's supply chain, whether it's marketing, whether it's, idara, or whatever activities we are engaged in, all these activities, if following this pattern, become means of getting close to Allah. Otherwise, they're taking us far away. Okay. So UBM mission. So what is the Ubudiyya business model? We are seeking to transform the perceptions, objectives, practices of business from a material base to an Ubudiyya base. Perceptions materially, we're here to make money. What's the objectives? Make a lot of it. Practices, just do it. Whatever you have to do, just do it. Our perception, Ubudiyya base says, perception this is a test and trial from Allah. It is a system made by Allah, which is also a means of getting close to Allah. And also Allah has engineered this for people to benefit one another. Objectives, pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and higher objectives. And along with that, you have business objectives so that the business can sustainably give these benefits. The business is not profitable. If it's not sustainable with profitability, it's not going to sustain. You cannot continue those good objectives. And then practices, obviously, we have a Shariah. So Ubudiyya business model is here to do what? To facilitate humanity in conducting all of its business activities on the basis of Ubudiyya, based on intention, niyyah, Shariah, Sunnah, Akhlaq, character. For further elucidation, kindly check out the website. So here's some of the Abudia business model. So let me read this from my. Okay. So first of all, the Abudia business model, number one, we are basing our whole program on the concept of excellence. Excellence because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to do things with excellence. He loves the excellence. You know, like yuhibbul muhsinin. Allah loves the people who do things with excellence. And Nabi Sallallahu also told us, if you're going to do something, do it with excellence. So we need to safeguard against haram, safeguard against unintended haram. Some haram, it's very clear. Sometimes there's evidence that we need to be aware of and vigilant. So we need to have, oversight. Responsible, competent leadership, responsible, competent employees, responsible, competent leadership, responsible, competent employees. If you like, one of the most important aspects of all of this is called discipline. Disciplined people, disciplined thoughts, disciplined actions. You're not going to get that until you have these kind of people. They need to be groomed. That's part of the responsibility of our organizations. And we offer services that seek to bring about this. Care and development of the employees, high performance standards, excellence. So what happens if we bring these elements into our business? We get barakat in our wealth, blessings. A little goes a long way rather than a lot goes nowhere. Okay, what we have. We have a motivated workforce. We have people that have higher ideals. They come to work not because they have to, but because they want to. Subhanallah. Competent, honest employees. Lesser than pilferage and wastage. Usually people say, we need to put these things because we're getting ripped off. If that's our only intention, it's not going to work cool. Okay, when we're not getting ripped off, then okay, come ho gaya. We've done our mission, we've done our job. No. These are icing on the cake, if you will. These are the side benefits. Lesser theft, pilferage, wastage, reduced politicking, gossiping. There's politics in organizations, which everybody is too well aware of. You'll have good teamwork because we function as a jama'ah, which is a very core Islamic concept. Minimal disputes and conflicts. Ta'awun ala al-birri wa taqwa. We're going to get the spirit through our cultural building we're here for one another. We're here to build. We're here to do good things together. Right? It's not about what I've achieved. Yeah. Minimal disputes and conflicts. Optimal processes of use of resources. This is a big problem here in Pakistan and many of our countries. It's all over the world, but particularly in this part of the world. The waste that we have of time and resources of people, it's heart-wrenching. So we need to look into all of these things, and UBM has interventions for all of these things. Quality practices. So you bring all of these practices and incorporate this into your organization. What do you end up with? You end up with better products and services. You have satisfied customers, and obviously you have better results. And then most importantly, because you have a higher ideal, you want to please Allah, and so in doing so, you get all of these benefits here and all of those benefits much more in the next month. So here, since the time is short, we'll just give a basic, the concept that materialism bases ubudiyah. So what do we consider success? We talked about earlier, successful. What does it mean successful? Just, we're written up in Fortune 500. We've got a bottom line that, supersedes, everybody else's bottom line. No, success is that Allah has given a stamp of approval. Allah is happy with this. And if Allah is happy with something, obviously it's going to be successful unbelievingly. In this world, in your profitability, in your sustainability, in your growth, everything. And most importantly, on the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu will say, okay, accept it. Enter with Siddiqeen, Nabi, Siddiqeen, Shuhada, Salihin. Enter into the company of the prophets. As we're going to see, if we do these kind of things, it's going to be on the day of judgment, raised with the prophets and the martyrs and the pious people, which indicates that this is not easy, by the way. Watching one presentation is not going to change the course of our lives or the course of our businesses. It's going to be a long, tedious, continuous effort, right? But it's well worth it. Well worth it. So in terms of what we consider success, risk, are you competing with for your risk with anybody? Our belief is your risk is ordained. You're going to get what you're going to get. But how are you going to get it? That's your concern. Right? And whether there's going to be paradise. The rewards and punishments only here in this world or here in the next world as well. So rewards and punishments also are to effort. Allah's big rewards for effort. Also, it's a very important paradigm in organizations. We recognize the effort that people put in, or we just look at what material, financial benefit they're making for the company. So all of these areas, what's the quality in life? What's the competition? How do we look at what's the leadership in our paradigm? Concentration of wealth, which is huge. When I was a kid, CEOs used to make around 5 to 10 times more than the common laborer. Now, it's like, thousands of times more. It's disparity between the haves and the have-nots. So this is not our model. As a result of that, our organizations are going to reflect our belief along these lines as well. Our other roles in life, am I just here for the business, or that's part of my portfolio as a human being, as a slave of Allah? So I'm going to learn how to balance my business activities and my engagement in my business along with the other roles in life and give priority where priority is due. This is a very important concept that Muhammad Faisal introduced in this this idea that, business today, also this is a very important thing to understand. During the time of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Khalid went to Muhammad sold Khalid something, there was an exchange of goods or a service of Khalid. It was one person dealing with another. Very simple, very straightforward. Today we have organizations. Used to be, traders. Maybe you'd have a small partnership. Now we have these huge, gigantic organizations, and they've got very high levels of complexity. A complex organization needs a relatively and appropriately complex solution. We have complex problems, so we need a bit more complexity in our solutions. So the solutions of the 20th century organizations are not going to work for the 21st. So we need to be, along with the statics, which are core Islamic values, professional excellence demands that we keep up with the highest levels of professional excellence, which is a dynamic which changes by the second. How you run your supply chain last year is not how you run it now. You want to have optimal, optimization in any of these areas. It needs a continuous honing, as Stephen Covey says, sharpening of the saw. You keep sawing something, you have to keep sharpening it. If you don't sharpen it, it's dull, it's not going to cut. So these are some of the some background of our model here. We began this around 2011, and about 40, 50 individuals were engaged in this process from among scholars, among specialists in industry, business owners, academia, and in my house out in Hawke's Bay. So for about 3-4 years, we continued to meet, and mashallah, people put in some tremendous work. Some of them are sitting here with us today. And ultimately, a trust was founded in 2014, and then operations began, and advisory and consulting work was initiated in various organizations. And the trust and the advisory services that we offer, and it is not for profit. In other words, this, of course, it has running expenses and all that, but it is not here for profit. It's here for service. It's not going to accept it and continue it. So all Sharia issues addressed through one window in a convenient manner. So it's not simply philosophy, but we offer a range of services that help people to become those organizations that can actually embody and actually implement in the various areas they need to implement to have that excellence, not only Islamically, but professionally. Goes beyond Sharia compliance. Compliance is like minimum. You have to, below there, you're not. We seek to, number one, bring higher levels of excellence according to the organization, what they can do. And also bring the concept, most importantly, it's not just simply obeying the outward laws of Sharia, but the intention, the intent. You can be Sharia compliant and not even be a Muslim, but you cannot be Ubudiya compliant and not be a Muslim. To be Ubudiya compliant, it means that I have the intention, I want to please Allah in these activities. Okay? Expertise in management consulting. In a lot of these countries where we live, we have this is needed everywhere. I live in America, and I'm telling you, even there, the practices are hideous. People think it's very advanced and they're very professional and they're very polished and they're very disciplined. It's not the case. Some. But and in our places, in our countries, and most Muslim countries, it's really a mess. So we offer expertise in all of these areas: managing, consulting, culture development, which is one of probably the most singularly important element of the whole model. Developing a culture that breeds all of these concepts. A culture where people are focused on these things from the top down, from the top management down to the very, the very lowest levels of your management hierarchy. Develop a culture of all of these things. And so some of the services that are offered in this process: gap analysis, audits, assistance in achieving compliance. So one is we're going to identify where there's discrepancies, inshallah. Sort out those discrepancies, some easily, some more difficult. Management consulting, organizational planning, very, very important and very, very rare to find that, particularly here in these countries. Even in America, we find organizational planning, development of policies and procedures, having your SOPs and having manuals that clearly, not only clearly mention that, but are they being implemented? Even if we have manuals and SOPs, generally find them, nobody really pays much attention to that. That's not going to work like that. We need to have them in there. So we need to oversee that. So we'll help you do that, inshallah. Systems development, process improvement, organizational structures, culture development. So what do we do there? Review the vision and mission. First of all, why are we here? Why do we exist? What is this company trying to do? What's the benefit that we're trying to do for humanity? Define our values and behaviors that's going to facilitate that. We need to have in our individuals, in an organization, to bring about the fruition of this vision and mission. You're going to need leadership modeling. So then we need leaders that are going to lead people in this vision and mission with these qualities. So that requires training, that requires education. So we offer services along these lines. And this is the main 7 areas. There are originally 6, and another 7th area has been added. So number 1, leadership, culture development, your hierarchy, your management structure, etc., and leadership, and of course, the culture development is going to be initiated by leadership and carried out by what we call the Human Development Services, which takes the place of what is commonly known as HR, human resources. Human is not a resource. He's the best of creation. So the key element of these organizations is the development of our people. The people are first, not the product. The product is for people, not people for the product. So the focus here is on humans, not on the product. And when you're focusing on humans and developing your people, of course they do great things. Of course they're more efficient. Of course, as a result, you get more profits, you're more profitable. Supply chain management, information technology, Islamic law and contracts, finance and accounting, marketing and sales. On these, we have a whole system of guidelines and checklists. You can go to our website. They're there for anybody who wants to benefit from those. And if you're more, conscientious about it, then get us to help you implement these things and understand these things. So how does this implementation basically take place? First of all, we go to the top. What's your intention? Consensus on the top management, your directors, your top management. What is the intention of this business? What's its mission? What's its vision? Come to a consensus on that. And then what do? Define the desired culture that we need to develop this organization and sustain it. Leadership modeling. We're going to have to train these leaders, in a particular way. And we're going to have training and education to bring them up to that level. And then education developing all organizational members. That means from your board of directors down to your guard at the door. Everybody has to be on board. Shared vision, shared mission, shared quality. And so what practices? Training on the guidelines, gap analyses, implementation, and then check compliance. You're implementing, okay, we implemented a cost. That's the end of it. No, we have to go back and see how effective was our implementation. And obviously, you're not going to get it right the first time. Again, and again, and again. It's a continuous process. As we learned the Ron in childhood, good, better, best, never let them rest. Until the good is better, better is the best. And when does that happen? Never. It goes on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever until we leave this world. Therefore, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala one dua, which is wajib. Ihdina sirat al-mustaqim. Put us on the right path. So does that mean that by the time I'm 40, I would have reached my destination? I can take a vacation? You need to be on the path until you leave this world. You leave this world on the path. The same concept here. We're continuously in this process until we leave from this world, inshallah. Okay, so success in business from the material paradigm. Okay, I got better products, services, I get higher customer satisfaction, I get better results. Fine? Not totally. Partially. So our paradigm, Ubudiyya paradigm is correct intention, first of all, then you're going to get better halal products and services, higher customer satisfaction, better halal results, which means you get better results in this world and in the next. So what happens if you're the best in business? So you'll end up with the prophets and the Nabis and the Siddiqeen, the people who are truthful. You'll be with the best of creation. If you are Tajir Saduq al-Amin, a truthful, trustworthy business person. So if you're going to be with these people who are the highest ranked people in humanity, it means this is not a small thing. It's a big thing. It also infers it's not easy. As we said earlier, it's difficult. Jannah is expensive. You don't get in for free, So it requires some sacrifice. It requires discipline. It requires determination. But the returns are great. The ROI is beyond calculation. The return on your investment is far above and beyond your imagination, because it will be forever and ever and ever and ever. So we have a whole series on this particular diagram, which we don't have time here. But cultural development, it matters. You have happy people. When do you have happy people? We have a culture that shows that we're doing something great. We're doing something important. People get happy and they work conscientiously. And you'll have a huge, benefit. This is an interesting that Imam Faith, I kind of redid it a little bit. But we have this cultural iceberg, so we have, an iceberg, obviously, there's a little bit showing and there's a lot underneath. It's like a mountain. Okay, so first of all, the culture that we profess. What's your culture? Okay, where's that mission vision statement? Bring it on in. Okay. We profess mission, vision. We've got goals. We've got strategies, policy, procedures, services, products. This is what we profess, but they're actually, in reality, the culture that we actually have, which is, people have their own assumptions, their perceptions, their politics and all of that stuff going on, because we didn't make an effort. You're not going to get a culture of Medina without a Meccan struggle. We got the culture of Medina not because they saw a PowerPoint presentation. Or, all of a sudden, maybe so some pushed a switch, he waved a magic wand, and voila, we have, Medina life. There was a huge effort that went into that. So we want that kind of culture, then we need to put in the effort for it. And so this culture building, do, do we have time to explain this? We don't have any time to explain this. So for explanation of this culture building, is basically we need to identify your intention. We need to, develop your core values and what is the basis, what are the core values that we have. And then what do we do? What do we do and why do we do it? And then, develop the whole system upon these values and upon these principles. So it's a continuous, it's a very important, it's the most important element as we've identified, and it is a never-ending development process. So this is, I think, one of the most important things that the UBM, the Urbunia business model, offers. So just a couple of minutes for the trainings. As we said, this is not going to happen without training. It's not going to happen without tarbiyah and ta'aleem, as we call it, training and mentoring. So these are some of the trainings that we offer. And these are also some of the those who have tried to implement these systems. And this, they had tremendous results. We're going to have time to read through that, but hopefully we'll be able to share this presentation. It'll be up online for people to see. And they can go to our website and see these testimonials. So there's some testimonials of some of the companies that have tried to implement this in their work. This particular company, they took our guidelines and manual right off the internet, and they themselves implemented it, and they were the top paint company in Pakistan. So these are some of the trainings that we offer. 2-day workshop on leadership excellence. We have business essentials. We've got prophetic character at work. We've got the way of work, and also, various, intricacies in, the development of the culture and the environment that we have. So these are some of the trainings that we offer. Gender also, and of course, at the heart of it is the heart. So, what is your intent in your business profession? So that question now we throw out to the audience, those who are present here in our audience physically, and those who are online. So I think we have a few minutes for some questions and answers. We welcome all questions. We don't guarantee any answers, but we'll do the best that we can within the time frame. And we can start with the floor here. Do you have any questions? In other words, it's all understood, all accepted, and we're ready to go, right? Yeah. Yeah. Question. There are certain things that you have in a company that can never share as mind, right? Like, for example, if I have an IT company, I'm the CEO of the inside IT company. Okay. So we are providing the services of marketing, designing, animation, website development. Now, when we talk about animation, animation is something that every other client wants to add to the So either way, I have to either use this service to make my company more fair or somehow I have to avoid my customers from using their applications. When we are choosing between the two, if my major stake of the company's revenue is from the animation department. So I am like I am hesitant to avoid it. Like, how do you go about this? Is a very common thing because now we've wandered all the jar for the past century. It's not a war. I mean, it's a process of descended from the past sort of centuries of things, and we find ourselves in the abyss of the garage. It didn't happen yesterday. Today or tomorrow. It's a gradual process, incremental process. When the Prophet ﷺ started in Makkah, he was dealing with shirk. He was dealing with, alcohol addiction. He was dealing with burying female, children alive. He was dealing with a lot of huge issues. Did he at once, say, okay, from today, Jibreel came to me and said, I'm the Prophet, and from today, all this Sharia comes on the heads of the people in Makkah? No. 13 years to prepare culture. That's why we were emphasizing this culture development. Okay. And then incrementally, the easier Sharia laws came before the more difficult ones. And the most difficult ones came in the very end of the Madani period, ostensibly the prohibition of riba, which was the most difficult thing and remains one of the most difficult things to weed out of society. So what we advocate is don't, we have a saying in America, don't get gung-ho. I don't know if you know that expression, Don't try and jump up and do everything all at once. Take short, small, consistent steps. Begin the culture, development process. The concept that we are Muslims, we have Iman, there's Jannah, there's Jahannam, we have this concept of Barakat. And then on the organizational level, you will take these individual issues and see where you are at this point. Many issues, contentious issues, we won't be able to weed them out or sort them out the first day, week, maybe even year. It might take decades to get where we want to get on a certain issue. That's okay. As long as we're on a sirat al-mustaqim, right? We're on the path. We're making progress. That progress may be slower, it might be faster, but if we're on the path and we're making progress, that's what we want to see. That's what makes it. We don't want to get complacent also, but we don't want to get over ambitious so that we become frustrated. So as you move on, because that's a contentious issue and there's dynamics that you have to look into and use in your organization along with your advisors, you'll see light at the tunnel, the way you deal with this issue. So there's no problem except that there's a solution. But that solution might take time, it might be difficult. And maybe there's certain issues that might not be attainable in our lifetime. We see here in Pakistan, 70 years is going on, and what have we been able to, accomplish? Creating that, place of Islam. We're quite far from the mark, Is there effort going on to try and achieve that? Yes, there is. Yeah, people are working for that. It's a very slow process. If it took maybe some 23 years, then what's it going to take other people? So don't get discouraged and take issues and don't get too rambunctious, as it were. Take things in stride and start understanding the people that you have, their capacity, how far and how fast they can move. And inshallah, when there's a will, there's a way. إنما الأعمال بالنيات. So we make an intention of Allah will inshallah. Hopefully that will be somewhat of an answer. Yeah. Thank you. We have other questions? Online, do we have any questions? Any other questions? Well, we have extended our time by 2 minutes. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, if anybody wants to make a wudu in the meantime, they can just make a salah. Yeah.
So, what is the bigger problem did you have faced in your services in terms of changing from conventional to Islamic version in businesses? What was the major problem? It's been mindset.
It's the biggest issue. It's the biggest issue, and we can see this from Sierra. We can see it in our personal lives. To change the perceptions of people, their objects, their perception of why they're doing what they're doing, and why we should do, particularly in places where because when we're working in these kind of countries, like in Pakistan. Pakistan was under colonial rule. The Greater India was under colonial rule for how long? Over a century, right? And before that, there was heavy corruption set in. So that cultural baggage and that background is created perceptions and character and values that are really, really skewed. To bring about a change in these things in people, it's a difficult process. For this, prophets were sent to the world. That's what they did. They changed, transformed people. That was their job. So it's a very difficult job. That's the thing. Once you get people on board, then it's on autopilot. Autopilot, it's going to go itself. But to get to that level, it's difficult. That's what I faced. I think everyone did meet probably to the same thing. Yeah. Okay. Jazakumullah khair, barakallahu feekum. I want to thank everybody who came, who attended here, took up their times. Working day for most people, and getting stuck in traffic, etc. To get here, and those people online took out the time from their busy schedules to join us. And hopefully this will be the beginning of a journey that we can all continue together. And further opportunities will be for such sessions and to collaborate and actually implement together. Jazakumullah khair, barakallahu feekum, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika. أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.